So yesterday I actually attended this protest, and I wanted people to see this video because I think it's a good reflection of where a lot of people in Mali stand right now. So this was people pretty much showing their support to not only the government. This was about Mali yesterday because even people who aren't for the current government were present. Um, because we feel like, I don't know, you guys probably know about the ECOWAS sanctions because that's what the discussion was about. So recently they had all of these sanctions about Mali, which first of all are completely illegal. Like half of them, they can't even apply. They just don't have the right to, because ECOWAS, this was not part of a treaty when ECOWAS was created, right? So a lot of the economic sanctions, like not having us touch whatever money we have at the West African Central Bank, they can't even apply. They don't have the right to do that. It's completely illegal. And the sanctions, which I believe a lot of people are seeing on the media, that it's because we don't want to hold elections. But I feel like it's important to look at the bigger picture. Like Mali is occupied, like half of Mali is occupied by terrorist groups. There are regions where people are not going to be able to vote if we hold elections now. Literally, like people aren't going to be able to vote. And that's not what I call a legitimate elections. Like if you want something to be legitimate, the entire country should be able to participate. And it's not fair to hold elections in, let's say, Bamako, Sikasso, or like cities in the south when people in the north cannot vote or people in the center of the country cannot vote. That is not right. It's wrong. And like, so people are divided in Mali right now, right? But the majority of the country yesterday came out to protest against these sanctions because one, they can force us to have elections when half of the country is occupied. That's not how it works. That's not democracy. I'm sorry, my English is not that good. But that is not
No, it's
democracy. That's
amazing.
not how it works. And like, so yesterday, this protest that I'm showing you was pretty much the military calling people, the military government called people to protest against these sanctions. And literally, people, regardless of their political views, came out. This has never happened in Malian history because for the first time in our history, people in every city in Mali, people who could actually walk out, regardless of the situation, because there are regions where there's so much insecurity that you can't really do that, right? So people who could actually came out. This is only Bamako, but this similar protests took place in other regions in Mali, literally. And it was mainly people showing their support for the state because our sovereignty is threatened. And the sanctions that you see ECOWAS taking is not about the elections, and it's a prevalence, and that's wrong. So the current government, which a lot of people probably know, has signed a military agreement with Russia. So we're turning more away from the French, and we're working more with Russia right now, right? And that has been an issue for the former colonial power, which has been trying to force us to have elections because they don't want this government there. And this, I feel like, is being supported by ECOWAS in some way. And I just think it's not acceptable to try to force us to have elections in February. Like, think about it, like, right, we're in January. In what country can you see people plan elections in so little time? Literally, it's not possible. We can't have it because not everyone's going to be able to vote. This whole thing that you see is not... So it also depends on what you define as democracy, right? We've had elections in the past. But if you think about Malian history, like if you look at our history, we've had so many coups. And I think it's important to ask yourself, why are we having so many coups? And if we elect a president now, I can guarantee you that we're going to have another coup. Why? Because the country is not stable. Because the country is occupied. Because Malians are dying every day. Like we've had the massacre of like Ogosagu. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. People were burnt alive. People were killed in their homes. Little children were like slaughtered. This happened in Mali. Where was ECOWAS when that happened? All of a sudden, now that we have a coup, they have a military force that they can send into the country whenever. Where were they when we were dying? Our people have been dying, and we want a permanent solution. And part of what this government has been doing, so they've been bringing changes, which a lot of people don't see. And this is not, so I'm not for military coups. I am not, because I want stability in my country. But we need to acknowledge it when a government does something good, and we also need to acknowledge the fact that it's time for Mali to have a form of independence. We can't keep relying on the French. We can't keep relying on other powers to come and like rescue us whenever. So this is about having something stable, because these prolongations that the government are asking for didn't just come from anywhere. They didn't just like walk out and be like, oh, we're gonna, I don't know, extend this for this number. First of all, they told ECOWAS that they're willing to negotiate. ECOWAS chose sanctions over dialogue, and we need to point that out.
They've already
That's one thing.
negotiated in the first
Second,
place.
is
Okay. No, Niger,
no,
just
they have
wait a
not
bit.
negotiated. They took sanctions. They took sanctions. They took sanctions against us. They have not negotiated with us. So after the first, like if you look at the first, so the transition has been in place for a little over a year, or maybe just like a year. But if you think about it, we cannot have elections. It's not possible. And this is something that a lot of people in the country, if not the majority of the country, agrees on. Because
Okay,
no
what are
one
the
wants
good
to
things the
vote without our
government has
brothers and
actually
sisters
done
in the
that makes
north.
them popular? What are the good things the government has actually done that made them popular? Because it's good for people to
I
know.
don't even know where to begin. It starts with breaking the ties that we've had with the former colonial power for years. Because we keep talking about we want African unity, but like so I don't know.
Okay.
So many countries are independent, but let's think about Malian independence. Is it really independence? Yes, has Mali really been independent? No, we have not. We're still living like a French colony. We are, and we've been like this for years. It's time for it to stop.
We agree with that.
It is
What
really
else
time
have
for
they
it to
done? I
stop.
want to know more about what the government has done for the people to make them popular.
There's been a lot of reforms. Even if you look at for example, the health department in Mali, there's been a lot of reforms. We've had more medical material coming in. This government has done more in the health department and other departments in Mali in like a few months than other governments have done in, let's say, 10 years, literally. And the situation in the country, if you look at the terrorist groups and what's actually going on in Mali, we've made progress. Like, we've literally made progress because we have less attacks going on now. The government is making progress. Our military has been doing a good job lately, which no one is actually pointing out, because it doesn't suit the French to have that seen on TV, because they've been here for 10 years. They haven't been able to do what this government has done in a couple of months with the help of the Russians. And I'm not supporting Mali relying on other powers, but we need to start somewhere. If you really want to have our independence, we need to start forming our military. We need our military to be trained. Like, the French have been here for years. They could have given us, let's say, military equipment to help us strengthen our military. They did not. They stayed here saying, oh, we're going to help you. It's been 10 years. Nothing has been done. People are dying. Like, literally. Just recently, we've had an attack where a bus with innocent people who were just going to a local market were killed. That bus was attacked, it was burned down, and innocent people died. Entire families died. And if you saw the protest yesterday, even people who aren't for the military regime were there, because we are tired of seeing that happen. It was people being there formally. It was beyond political views. This was not about political views or whatever. It was about Mali. Every single person who walked out yesterday, and I was among those people, walked out for Mali. Malians are dying, and our emergency right now is to find a solution for that. It's not about elections. Elections are important, I agree, but we want our people to stop dying. Because as I'm talking to you, there are children who should be in school who are in the woods, because you literally have children leaving school to take guns to defend their villages, because the military could not at the time afford to protect them all. You had people leave school for that. Like, the situation in the center of the country is a disaster. Children are slaughtered, literally. People are being burnt alive. It's a massacre that's happening here, and it's happening under mediatic silence, because half of what happens in Mali is not covered. Like, so many people have died since this crisis began. So many people. And I know of people personally who are affected by what's going on in the center of the country. I know of people who had to leave their homes, who saw their families die. And this is real. Like, this is the real problem. It's not even... ECOWAS needs to look at Malian people first and think, okay, what solutions what can we do to assist this country in helping them stop their people from dying before we even talk about elections. It's not legitimate to have an election where half of the country votes and the other half does not. It's not democracy.
Let me tell you what I know about the fact that they negotiated with ECOWAS. They took over a regime that was democratically elected. They negotiated with ECOWAS that they were going to have an election in February, and in January they reneged on that promise that they made, that they were going to have an election. And ECOWAS went ahead to have this embargo on the sanctions on them. And remember, they also switched from the French. They kicked out some French. Let's not forget some. There are still French soldiers in Mali today. He didn't get rid of all of them, and brought 1,000 Russians in.
He didn't get rid of the French. So the French had a contract. So the first force that we had was Barkhane. And Barkhane ended because that's what we agreed upon when Barkhane was first, I don't know, when they signed that treaty, right? And then Emmanuel Macron, without even consulting the Malian government, decided to withdraw their troops. And after he did that, he came up with a different force, Takuba, which he didn't talk to our government about either. And he decided that this force would replace Barkhane. So it's not the government didn't let them leave. So the French left because Emmanuel Macron decided to draw down troops, not because we kicked them out to begin with. Second,
And that,
one thing this
okay.
government did was to revise the terms of the treaty because it was more benefiting to the French than it was to us. And the other thing is, if France wasn't doing the job, we're not gonna let our people die. Like we're not gonna let Malians die. We have to turn to someone. And I don't agree with like other forces, like relying on other forces, but we have to. Like our lives depend on it. I'm a Malian. I live in Mali. I know what's happening. We are dying.